Streets and Scholars, Alex Alonso and FG, here to bring you another banger. And I'm here with the Eastside General, man. What it do?
What's going on with it? What's going on with it?
I'm just ready to tap in with you on another episodes of Streets and Scholars, man. And actually, before we start, I just saw that your team, the Dallas Cowboys, is making some damn trades already behind the scenes. I don't know if you keep up with the off-season football.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah, they got some they got some things they got going, man. Picked up a few players, man. Grabbed Brandon Cook and shit, and picked up Stephon Gilmore from Indy, man. You know, shit, man. Yeah, they trying, bro. You know, so they trying shit.
I heard someone someone personally told me that they are never gonna win with Prescott as the quarterback, man. But I guess you got faith that it's a possibility.
Well, you know what? They can do it with Prescott. He's not the best, but he's better than a lot. So you know what I mean? You get if that defense come together and really lock it down. I mean, this Prescott 7th to 8th year, if he can't get nothing done this year, then yeah, I would be willing to move on from him, no doubt.
Okay, so you're giving him one more year to see what he can do. What if he goes like 11-5? 12.
Man, fuck all that. No, that's not enough. You know, we just went like 12-4. I mean, we need get to the championship game, man. You know, it's all or nothing for me. You know, at least the NFC championship. Anything less than that, man, is unacceptable.
Okay, man. Well, the football season is some time away. I know everybody's tapping in with NCAA basketball. Did you do your bracket for the basketball? Because I forgot to do mine this year.
You know what? I didn't even do it, man. You know, I didn't get a chance to do it. I've been so busy, man. You know, so shit. Who you want to ultimately pull it out?
I believe that probably UCLA, even though I'm not a UCLA fan. They probably gonna be the Final Four, and they haven't won one in a minute. They'll probably they might get it this year.
You know, going way back to Kareem and shit, bro, we was always USC football, but UCLA basketball. You know what I mean? And that was crazy. You know, we was able to do it. They was both LA, but we've always, you know, coming up, even with my dad, man, we was always rooted for UCLA basketball and USC football.
Yeah, man. I don't remember the last one UCLA won, but I know in '95, man, they had a monster team with Tyus Edney, the O'Bannon brothers, and none of those guys had a successful NBA career. In fact, they didn't even all make it, which is crazy. The best team in the country didn't yield no NBA talent, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I know the O'Bannon brothers personally, you know. But yeah, you're right. They didn't. But no, UCLA just won the title some years back. It ain't been that long. Yeah.
I can't even name any of the players off of that team.
I can't either. Yeah, I couldn't name not one.
All right, man. I want to tap in with a couple of comments that we've been getting on the Apple, I guess the Apple review board. And if you're listening to us on Apple, go ahead and leave us a review there, a comment, and let us know what you think. But this one comment from, who's this from? This comment is from Stamped to Active. He says, "Hey, Alex, I catch all the episodes from here to Street TV, even including some of your guest interviews on YouTube. Reggie and James, Reggie and James, Mob James, for those who don't know, have been dropping a few bombs on Steel and Gangster Chronicles lately, and wanted to know if you could chime in." I didn't even know what this. I'm just reading these comments randomly, man. Look, I've spoke about my time on the Gangster Chronicles on previous interviews, and I really don't have anything else to say publicly about my situation there, man. But shout out to Bomb First, and they're doing their thing over there. And I don't know if FG's got anything to add to that.
Yeah, you know, I check them out every now and then, you know, check them out and see what's going on, you know, as I do with everybody else, you know. And, you know, I did, when I seen that title, you know, I tapped in on it to see, you know, if they had spoke on anything, you know, for, you know, regarding UNC and, you know, what was their opinion on, or what the comments were about, you know, you against the Chronicles, you know. And to be honest with you, man, it still seems like it's all love for them dudes for you, as far as, you know, that who, you know, was a part of the original team and helped mold that group together, man, to make it, what it was. And I do see everybody saying that it just ain't been the same since y'all three haven't been together. So I have seen that.
Yeah, man. People got used to the team that we had, and we had a good run over there. And people even asking me now, what's the chances of us all three getting together? And my response to that is pretty much slim to none. But I was thinking the only way that I would ever sit in the room with Mob James again and Reggie Wright is if Mob James just comes clean. If he says I did what I did and I apologize and I want to move on from it. I made a mistake. Then I have nothing against the dude. I got no beef with the guy. But other than that, the chances of all three of us getting together is slim to none, y'all. So please stop sending me those messages. Okay, here we got another comment here from a guy named Funkorama. Funkorama sends in, I really enjoyed.
Funkorama, dang.
Yeah, Funkorama 2016. I really enjoyed the podcast. It gets better every week. But I want to point out, I can't believe FG didn't know Kevin Durant was part of the big three in OKC Thunder. It was KD, Westbrook, and Harden. Harden left to the Rockets first because OKC, I guess the comment gets cut off right there because OKC didn't ... Yeah, man, what was that about a month ago? We were talking about Kevin Durant, and
Right.
I guess one of these listeners remembered what you said.
No doubt, man. I couldn't believe that I didn't remember that either. You know what I mean? Because they definitely had a solid squad over there. Not to mention, I got nieces and nephews down there in Oklahoma City that always used to send me pictures and stuff from the games. I don't know how I forgot about that, dog. But at the end of the day, man, I'm getting a little older, man. I'm starting to forget some shit.
Yeah, man. Shit.
Yeah.
Between both of us, man, we got over 100 years of knowledge and experience and living and shit. So
No doubt, but it's cool that he called me out on that, man. Because I damn sure shouldn't have forgot that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always.
KD been moving around a lot lately, man. But I guess that's what all these players doing nowadays.
Yeah, KD's been moving around the most of the three. Westbrook bounced around a little bit. He was with the Lakers. Is he still with the Lakers or he left?
No, I'm glad they got his ass up out of there. Even though I like Westbrook, I'm not against him. It just he didn't fit there, But I'm ready for him to clean house over there at the Lakers anyway. But yeah, they had a good run, man.
And I guess Harden has been the most consistent. I think he went over to Houston after he left OKC, and he's been there ever since.
I mean, he been over there dominating, leading that team, making shit happen, man. But I'm just wondering how they couldn't get it done together. You know what I mean? But that's the way the cookie crumble,
Hey, man, I can't think of a team in the last 20, 30 years that had three bona fide stars on it. Maybe the Miami Heat when they had Bosh, LeBron James, and Wade.
Dwayne Wade, yeah.
But I'm not sure if I put Bosh up there as a bona fide star, a bona fide third star. But he's definitely that's probably the last time I seen three really great players on one team.
Yeah, and now and they went on to win a championship with those three. So you can't you absolutely right about that.
Yeah, they won. They went 4 times, man. I'm actually disappointed that they only won 2 out of 4. They should have won. They should have won 4 straight. But sometimes when you stack all these players up on a team, it doesn't necessarily mean a championship. But they'll keep trying that.
No doubt.
All right, I think the last comment I got here is. Oh, yeah, we already addressed this comment about the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, so let's get into a couple of topics, man. I guess the first thing I got here are the Oath Keepers. Some more Oath Keepers were found guilty of seditious conspiracy for the January 6th uprising, and I was wondering if you tapped in with that.
Yeah, man, I was tapped in with it. They didn't get the seditious conspiracy, but they definitely got hit with 3 or 4 charges for sure, and but they still looking at the same 20 years. Not saying that they gonna get it or nothing like that, but they still looking at 20 years with the multiple charges that they filed on them. So I'm going to see how that goes as far as sentencing. You know, I don't know when they go back to get sentenced, but I knew they were gonna come up guilty though. So we definitely gonna check on that.
Yeah, I pretty much knew that it was a done deal for those guys. I don't know if they decided to go to trial. I'm sure they were offered deals. The feds have been offering all these guys deals, but for whatever reason, they decided they were going to take it to trial.
We've got breaking news out of Washington. Just as we,
I got a clip here. Let me just play this quick clip and get your response to it right after. Let me. This is from NBC News. And of course, this is top news because it's kind of related to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's been in the news almost every day, like clockwork, because they're thinking about indicting the former president. I don't know how likely that is going to happen, but it's definitely tied into these Oath Keepers. And let me play this clip here.
We were talking about this. 4 members of the Oath Keepers were convicted of conspiring to obstruct an official proceeding in connection with the January 6th attack on the Capitol. And the jury is still deliberating on even more related charges. NBC's Ryan Riley is
we got a little buffering
following
there.
this trial. Ryan, what more can you tell us?
That's right. So we had 4 guilty verdicts come out of the jury today involving Sandra Parker, Laura Steele, Connie Meggs, and William Isaacs. And this is the 3rd Oath Keepers trial that we've seen. Now, this particular trial did not involve the same serious charges as we've seen previously of seditious conspiracy, but it was nonetheless one of these Oath Keeper trials. It's one that a lot of viewers might not have necessarily heard of because the big attraction, I would say, probably at the federal courthouse right now is the trial of the Proud Boys, which has been dragging on for a very long time. And that sort of has that new flair to it because, we've seen this is the 3rd Oath Keeper trial that we've seen now. But, these cases are continuing to churn every day. We're continuing to see new sentences every day imposed in various cases. We see there's another bench trial happening involving a defendant who has dressed up George Washington, for example, this week. And there's sentences coming up more this week, including against a neo-Nazi Riley Williams, who's going to be sentenced on Thursday and was charged in connection with the theft of Nancy Pelosi's laptop. So these cases are going to continue to churn, and they're going to go for a very long time because we have about 1,000 cases thus far, but DOJ has signaled that another 1,000 cases are in the pipeline. And if they ultimately hit that 2,000 number within the 5-year statute of limitations, they'll have arrested about 2/3 of the people who committed offenses that they could have been charged with that day. So it won't be everyone, but they'll get a significant chunk of people. And I think they're particularly going to be focused on the people who committed violence in these upcoming years, Chris.
All right. Yeah, you know what's crazy in that report? That guy just estimated that there's 3,000 people that violated.
He said 2/3, and he said it might get up to 2,000. Man, if he say they got their eyes on another 1,000, just best believe they know something. You know what I mean? But I just tripped off the husband and wife, Sandra Parker and her husband Benny. Did you pay attention to that? That they both got charged, but she the only one got convicted. He didn't get convicted on the same charges based on he never went inside the Capitol. And now he talking about, he wish he could take his wife's place. No, you should have been gangster enough to go up in there. You let your wife go up in there, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
so it's husband and wives that got caught up in this stuff as well, man.
Hell yeah. And that clip that we just played, for those that are just listening to us, there was they showed a lot of footage from that very day, and one of the outside shots, to me it looked like 3,000, 4,000 people on that yard. But they're trying to arrest another 1,000 before the statute of limitations. I believe the statute of limitations is going to go till January of 2024. When did that happen? That was January 2022, right? January 2020. No, I'm sorry, January 2021.
No, that was 20. Yeah, that was 22.
Oh yeah, that was 21. So that means that they have about 10 months left to arrest as many people as possible. And you know what? We never talked about that. There's a statute of limitations. If you could have laid low for 3 years, you would not get charged at all. Because once that date passes, that's it.
No doubt. They have to have their charges in by then, and if they don't, you get to walk free, So depending on, if they want to spend the money and spend the time on another 1,000 that may have a lot lesser charge, they may went after the people who had the biggest charges first and let it trickle down as far as, the people who like Benny Parker, his wife went in the Capitol. So, yeah, of course, she got more serious charges. They may not sweat everybody just for being there. You know what I mean? Probably if you didn't go in and you didn't have a significant piece, in the riot, they may not mess with you. You know what I mean? But the funny thing about it is Trump was talking last week, talking about he may get arrested. And if I do, I want y'all to protest.
Yeah, I heard that.
Right, but they wasn't fucking with him this time. They like, nah, man, you ain't gonna handle your business because we ain't. And it was funny because they like, nah, we ain't riding with you this time, bro. You know what I mean?
No, they're not trying to end up in an FCI or what is it now? I'm drawing a blank. FCI and USP.
USP, yeah, no doubt.
You know what I just realized from reading an article? They're saying that 2,000 people actually went inside. So I guess they're just gonna, they're gonna focus on those 2,000 and not the 1,000 that were outside that never went in. Not to say that they weren't committing crimes. I don't know if the people outside were violating any crimes, but man, yeah, it was January 2021. It's been 2 years. It took them 2 years to charge 1,000 people. And now there's 10 months left for the statute of limitations. So there's no way they're going to get, they're not going to get all this 1,000, the other 1,000 that went in the next 10 months. I remember I said a couple episodes ago, probably 1,500.
Yeah, you did say 1,500, but we gonna see, because they can definitely charge them. That don't mean they got to go get them. That don't mean they got to go look for them, but they definitely can put that indictment out there, So, I don't got them doing another 1,000 either, but we gonna see. You call 1,500, I think you gonna hit it on the spot, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because you know how many of these guys is actually hiding out right now, like many of us would be doing. If we knew the feds was after us, the best thing to do is to try to hide out, lay low, and avoid it, especially if there's a 3-year statute of limitations that's going to expire real soon. Wouldn't you just be laying low?
I mean, you could lay low, but at the same time, they still, if they put that indictment out there and put that warrant out for your arrest, that don't negate you not being caught up, but if they really want you, they can come find you, So I'm thinking that, the people that they don't go get, they don't really want,
Yeah. Okay. So we'll keep y'all posted with that. I wanted to ask you if you ever heard of a dude that had 31 bonds, like actually was fighting, I guess, 31 different cases and was able to bail out, get arrested, out, get arrested.
Crazy. Hey, that's crazy. That's nuts, man. I ain't never heard of that. I have seen a few homies that been out on 3 bonds.
Yeah.
Never more than that. Yeah, never more than 3. Yeah.
Well, there's a story.
That's crazy they even let him do that, though.
I'm thinking that most of these offenses that he had were minor because, it finally took something serious before they decided to keep him without bail. But 31 bonds for this young man named Joshua Ortiz Lopez from Added, Texas. I got a clip here. Let me play this clip because I ain't never heard nothing like this before. But I don't think he's going to be getting a bail anytime soon now that he got caught on. He got caught on some more serious stuff. Let me play this for y'all. This is a crazy story. And they're alleging that this guy's a gang member, too.
On tonight's Breaking Bond, an admitted gang member granted a whopping 31 felony bonds is back in court facing now a new judge.
Fox 26's Randy Wallace joining us now live with the latest in his ongoing series. Randy.
Yeah, Rashi, the judge who continuously revoked and reinstated all Joshua Ortiz Lopez's bonds lost in the primary. Today, Ortiz Lopez learned the new judge who replaced her isn't playing. It's hard to believe anyone, including Joshua Ortiz Lopez, is surprised to see him back in the 263rd Criminal District Court facing new criminal charges.
Possession of a controlled substance and theft of a motor vehicle valued at over $30,000.
We first told you about Ortiz Lopez last January for being a bond record holder.
I have really never seen anyone out on 31 felony bonds before, and in my career, I dare anybody to find a defendant who's had more than 31 bonds.
Since 2019, Ortiz Lopez has had his bonds revoked and reinstated more than 24 times. His total bond amounts more than $1 million. His charges include engaging in organized criminal activity, arson, retaliation, and possession of body armor by a convicted felon.
On 3 cases, 3 felonies, he got 5 bonds on the same felony. Now, I don't know. I'm looking at this going, maybe after the 3rd one, you might want to say, this just isn't working out, dude. Every time we keep giving you bond, you keep getting it charged with a new crime and getting revoked again.
Court documents state Ortiz Lopez and another admitted gang member stole a car on March 6th and took police on a high-speed chase.
This is an extreme danger to our community here in Harris County. Auto theft is a pandemic, not just for our car dealerships, but also just for the.
All right, I'm gonna say we got the point on there. And do you know what?
No doubt.
You know what the first thing I think of when I'm watch this story, when I read the story, is that this guy had to be an informant. This guy had to be working as a confidential informant at the highest levels for someone to just keep getting bail. Because I actually know some real informants. They get caught with a gun, they're out on bail. They get caught, with a sack, they're out on bail. And it turns out they were, informants. So
working, yeah.
Nothing in that story.
He was going to the same judge, and she probably knew exactly what he was doing. He probably was doing some damn good work as well. You got a hell of a point there, bro. To be honest with you, you got a hell of a point. I didn't think of that, but I was thinking like that's unbelievable. They just kept letting him out, but you might have just hit the nail on the head on that one.
Yeah, because the informants that I know that keep getting bond, they usually have maybe they're fighting like 5 gun cases, not 31. So yeah, this dude probably
yeah.
And the reason why he probably has 31 cases is because he knew he can get away with it. He was just so active with it.
Right.
So what do you think about that?
No, you hit it. Like I said, I didn't at first, but because it didn't make no sense, I'm like, man, something ain't right. Maybe, I even thought maybe the judge was just a relative or something. You know what I mean? But now you making it make sense. 31 bonds, dog. That's a long. I mean, come on, man, 31. Yeah, that's wild right there. They say he's the record holder.
Yeah, that story was out of Fox. That was out of Fox 26 out in Texas. And if you guys are from Texas, tapping in with Streets and Scholars, and you know anything about this guy, Joshua Ortiz Lopez, please tap in with me because I'd like to know more, because this is highly unusual that this guy can get out every single time he commits a felony. I'm sure some of these were minor felonies, but nonetheless, he was getting out on bail. And plus, how could he afford paying all of that without some assistance?
Right,
you know what I'm saying? He's not no major drug trafficker. He's just a little street corner thug.
No doubt. But they say that judge lost in the primary, so when the new judge came in, she wasn't having it. So now he locked up. He got a $5 million bond. That it's gonna hold him for a minute right now.
Yeah, I think his career is gonna come to a halt at that point because he probably abused the right that he had, or he abused the convenience that he had of catching. You can catch a couple cases, but you just can't keep going and going and going like this dude did.
Right, no doubt.
And I know quite a few people here in LA that have caught maybe 3, 4, 5 cases. And those 5 cases will raise an eyebrow with the local district attorney's office and the police, but 31 cases is out of control. That means that this guy was doing some very handy work. Had to be doing some handy work.
Shit, he was giving us some goods, dog. I mean, some goods. I mean, he was dropping gems on their ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for them to let him do that, is almost safe to say, man, that he was getting it in with them.
Yeah, definitely. Would love to know more about this guy. I am sure there's somebody sitting in the jail cell right now that knows this guy, that maybe he informed on him. If what I'm saying is true. Now, let me just preface that with I'm just speculating here. I have no inside information. That story out of Texas doesn't allude to that. That's just the way my mind is thinking, that this guy was probably an informant. You know, I don't want to get find out that this guy wasn't and he want to sue me. But yeah, that's my guess right now. Okay.
No doubt. I think it's a damn good guess, to be honest with you.
Yeah, 31 damn bonds. You got to be crazy. All right, man. I love to talk about these stories when police officers and deputies are getting charged and getting arrested and getting sent to prison for their corruption. But the one part about these stories that I don't is when it's a black cop, man. When it's a black cop going to jail, man, it kind of hits me a little different.
No doubt, but at the same time, they be fucking up too, though, Alex, you know what I mean? And, sometimes they be just as corrupt and just as scandalous with their own people, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, me, I ain't never wishing jail on no particular individual and shit, but at the same time, he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, man. The judge said he was arrogant, you know what I mean? And, I'm sure he probably was even more arrogant with, the inmates and people on the street, so some of these cops, though, black, white, brown, red, shouldn't need a motherfucking slap on the wrist for some of the scandalous shit they be doing.
Yeah, man, it's just a little disappointing when it comes from, our own people, because they know the struggle and they had an opportunity to become a law enforcement officer. And I'm sure their whole goal was to make change and improve the community. But when they get to getting involved in their own corruption, man, it's disappointing. Now, we're talking about a deputy named Victor Hill. Victor Hill is a brother out of Clayton County. Clayco, that was just in Clayco. I did a video a few months ago with some brothers in Clay. They call it Clayco for short. It's also the home of Waka Flocka Flame. And if I and I'm gonna dig up this picture. There's a picture of Waka Flocka Flame and this exact same sheriff. But let me play this clip for y'all real quick.
In Atlanta has sentenced former Clayton County Sheriff Victor Hill to prison time. This comes after a jury convicted Hill in October on 6 counts of violating the constitutional rights of detainees inside the jail. Fox Eye's Claire Sims has covered this case since the beginning. She is live outside the federal courthouse with reaction to what has been a high-profile case, Claire.
Yeah, good afternoon, Christine. I sat next to one of the victims in the courtroom as the judge handed down Hill's sentence, and he cheered, although he later expressed disappointment that the former sheriff never apologized in any way for his actions.
What were you doing in Clayton County that day?
It's a democracy, sir. It's the United States.
No, it's not in my county.
That was video used in the federal trial of former Clayton County Sheriff Victor Hill. Now, the man once tasked with upholding the law will go to prison for breaking it. U.S. District Court Judge Eleanor Ross sentenced Hill to 18 months in federal prison, plus 6 years of supervised release, 1 year for each of the victims whose rights a jury found Hill guilty of violating. During the sentencing, 4 character witnesses spoke on Hill's behalf, including interim Sheriff Levon Allen. Each one of them talked about Hill's positive work out in the community. But prosecutors argued Hill's conduct inside the jail was an affront to our criminal justice system, and that he tortured people by ordering them held in restraint chairs. Judge Ross told everyone in the courtroom that she truly struggled with this case and reminded the public that she was not here to punish Victor Hill for everything he's ever done or ever been accused of. Though before announcing Hill's sentence, she had some choice words for the former sheriff. As much as you love the law, your love of power overcame that, Ross told Hill. More than once, Judge Ross brought up Hill's arrogance and said she prays he will sit down for a moment and think about everything. In a video statement, Assistant Special Agent in Charge Chris McRae with the FBI Atlanta says everyone pays a price when law enforcement officials abuse their power.
The sentencing today should send a strong message to any law enforcement officer who wants to follow their own version of the law. As I said back at the indictment of the ex-Sheriff Victor Hill, badges and guns don't come with the authority to ignore the Constitution. They come with the responsibility to protect it.
Just before learning his sentence, Sheriff
He's
Hill
only gonna
told
get-
Judge Ross his intent
only gonna
was
get
never
18
to harm
months.
anybody.
That means he's probably going to a camp, right?
No doubt, but at the same time, well, actually, they his lawyer requested that he go to a minimum security institution, which is a camp, because what they say was he feared that retaliation from him being an officer, you know. But at the same time, you didn't fear when you was in there having you and your boys tying dudes up to chairs and dragging them across the floor and all that type of shit. You know what I mean? So I think he need to go to a regular institution so he could see how it actually is from the other side. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always trip on these reports when they say that the guy, whoever's going to jail, in this case, former Sheriff Victor Hill, never apologized. And I always say that you should never apologize, because you never know if your appeal is going to help you either get a lesser sentence or maybe get your whole case overturned. But this whole thing about apologizing or showing remorse, I think it's just ridiculous that we always expect that from our defendants.
No doubt. And then you don't give a shit if he said he's sorry anyway. That ain't gonna make you feel no better. You know what I mean? You're not gonna sit there and be like, oh, he said he's sorry, so no, don't give him no time. He good. He said he's sorry. You know what I mean? So you're right. Not to mention, a lot of people don't know when you apologize and you admitting guilt damn near, because what the fuck is you apologizing for? You know what I mean? So, you know, you damn right. I'm not gonna say I'm sorry. I'm not gonna say I'm apologizing, especially when I don't feel I didn't do anything or I'm professing my innocence, you know?
Yeah, I never judge a defendant for the lack of remorse he or she doesn't show or not apologizing to victims' families, because just because he's found guilty doesn't mean he doesn't have the right to an appeal. And as you just said, apologizing and doing all that in court is almost an admission of guilt. So it's the dumbest thing that the media always runs with that. Even the police will run with that. But what do you think about this 18-month sentence plus 6 years supervised release? Can you break that down? What does that mean from the feds? 6 years supervised release after his 18-month sentence.
Well, you know, after the 18 months, he going to do about 15, 16 months. You know, he going to get out. He going to be on supervised release, which is basically federal probation. You know, he's probably going to get halfway house time, you know. So at the end of the day, depending on how much halfway house time he get, Alex, he may only do 12, 13 months and go to a halfway house for 3 or 4 or something. But that supervised release, you know, it is where you're monitored by the feds, you're drug tested extremely, you know, in the beginning. Then they lighten up on you, but they gonna make sure you got a job. You're gonna make sure, you know, they strip you all your rights, your gun rights and things of that nature. I'm sure by him being a sheriff, I'm sure he was a gun owner, so he's gonna have to forfeit or sell all his guns and stuff like that, you know. So he definitely got a road ahead of him that will change, you know, a person's life, you know. And he's no longer a sheriff, he's an ex-sheriff, so he's nobody no more, you know. Seem like with the arrogance they say he had, you know, I want to see how he land, you know, when he come out and be a regular citizen. You know, he let it go to his head. You know, he broke the law as far as, you know, people's civil rights, you know, and so he's being held accountable for it.
Yeah, I just put up this picture for those that are watching us online. And for those listening to us on the podcast, I have a picture of Victor Hill that I'm going to post on the Streets and Scholars Instagram page, street.and.scholars Instagram page. Make sure you go tap in with that. But there's a picture here of Waka Flocka Flame all the way to the left if you're looking at the picture from our perspective. And Waka Flocka Flame is a tall brother. I don't know exactly how tall he is. He's probably like 6'4", 6'5". But Victor Hill is the third guy. He's the smallest brother in the picture. And
yeah, I was going to say, what, he 5'2" or something?
Yeah, he's probably like 5'3", 5'4", maybe. I think the brother in the red hat might be about 5'8", and Waka is about 6'4", 6'5". But I was just thinking, looking at this picture, maybe this guy Victor Hill, former sheriff deputy, suffered from the little man complex.
No doubt. Waka 6'4", so that dude probably about 5'4", if you, to be honest with you. So that's definitely what he could have, the kind of complex he could have had. I didn't know he was that small of a man, and so I could imagine, you get so many of these guys that's shorter in stature, you know what I mean, and they feel like they have to substitute it with ego and, bravado, but that could have definitely been a situation, but it's so many sheriffs and so many Los Angeles and other PDs or police departments around the world, man, who just, you have cops that go out there, man, and they go, I'm not going to even call it rogue. They just use the badge, hide behind the badge in order to terrorize some shit, on their own. They might even in their heart believe that they, doing what it takes, you know what I mean? And because I know it was a TV show, I don't know if you remember, with a cop named Vic Mackey, The Shield. You don't remember the TV show The Shield?
The ball guy.
And yeah, I used to like Vic Mackey, man, but he went out there and he got the fucking job done but it just went to show how it wasn't always by the book, you know what I mean? Sometimes when you fighting crime, crime come in all kind of different sizes. So he had to do what he had to do. Was he doing it, like you say, by the book? No, he wasn't. But at the same time, he was getting his man sometimes. So, you got a lot of these cops like that. The police department know that they operate like that, you know what I mean? So, this guy probably just took it too far.
You know how many people that he arrested probably told him, I will beat your ass if you didn't have a gun and a badge, and he got tired of hearing that.
Hell yeah, but they would have, and then like you say, he probably was extra turned up because of his small size.
Yeah, I remember my dad used to tell me when he was growing up, you couldn't be a small guy, and on the police force in the 1950s, they had like a height requirement. I think the minimum height was like 5'8" or 5'7" or 5'8", and he said that a lawsuit changed it. They considered that discrimination to where you could be a 5'2", 5'3" dude. I've seen LAPD officers that short, and my pops always thought that was a big mistake that the police went in that direction, allowing little guys to become cops, because it's really a big guy job, according to my pops. What do you think about that? Is that height discrimination, or should we let little guys be cops like this guy?
Well, at the end of the day, man, it's almost like having, when I used to rent security guard from my nightclubs, and they come with a 5'4" dude, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, the bro, what is, I remember one time at the Monte Cristo, Mike, he wanted to keep the security that he had been having for years, and I told him, Mike, no, I need to bring in, bigger security. And sure enough, man, we at the door, man, one time, man, I think it was I don't know if it was the 6-0s or the 9-0s. They came up there, man, and got into it and just took right off on the security, man. You know what I mean? And that was my point, to prove that, man, these little dudes, it's no intimidation factor. It's no, people just gonna go ahead and disrespect them. Females gonna disrespect you, Now, don't get me wrong. A man should not be employed or not be able to be involved in certain jobs because of his height. I don't agree with that, but I do believe that some jobs, like when I got to Tehachapi, I think you had to bench 300-400 pounds up there because them COs were swole. You know what I mean? All of them. You know what I mean? So, so it is some places out there, man, that want you to be fit, want you to be a certain size, want you to be a certain stature. You know what I mean? To rock and roll, but hey, nowadays everybody gonna file lawsuits and get in,
Yeah, man. When my dad came back from the Marine Corps, he told me he applied to become a police officer, but because he was only 5'5", they didn't give him the job. And then as my dad, grew up and had a family, and I grew up, my dad used to say, man, look at all these little cops are walking around the streets. Right. When I applied 25 years ago, they didn't even let a guy wear the badge if he was like 5'5". But yeah, man, this dude is really little. I'm definitely gonna post this picture, and I'm sure Waka Flocka Flame is regretting that he posted up with this dude. But you know, Waka's from Clayton County. That's his home. He wasn't born there, but he pretty much grew up in Clayton County. And I could understand why he's in the picture with this sheriff. I'm sure Victor Hill was one of the most popular sheriffs, one of the most popular black sheriffs from Clayton County. But yeah, he's going to prison, and I'm happy for that. I'm happy that the government is taking this stuff serious, and he's going to be sitting in the feds. What's the chance of someone like him ending up at a place like Victorville, though?
Slim and none. You know what I mean? He definitely won't be there. You know, they definitely not gonna send, a known ex-cop over there. You know, I can almost guarantee you that, because he gonna get drugged. They gonna get his ass beat. He not gonna be there for long as soon as they get word, and they will get word, so, and it ain't just Victorville. It's a whole lot of other places that he just won't step foot on those yards, bro. And, Lewisburg, Leavenworth,
Bloody
and so
Beaumont.
many other ones. Bloody Beaumont, you know what I mean? Nah, he'll be at none of those spots, He probably get his wish granted. He only got 18 months. He was a law enforcement officer. He will be going to a camp, somewhere in what state they was in? Georgia, right?
Yeah.
So they got some facilities down there in Georgia, man. They gonna send him to a nice little cushy camp with probably 150 little inmates. Nobody gonna want no problem. So, he gonna be able to go and just do his time and ride it out.
Well, I hope he makes it out alive, but I'm happy that he's going. All right, man, we talked about these 4 black folks from North Carolina that went into Mexico across the Texas border. And I did a little digging, and I found an article where all 4, remember I was asking, you were saying that something fishy is going on when we talked about this, right?
No doubt.
And I said, I was going to give them the benefit of the doubt, but if they do have criminal records, then I'm willing to entertain the idea that they were down there for something more than just going to go see a doctor.
No doubt. And when do you get 4 people, all with criminal records, in the same vehicle, going across the border to see a doctor? I mean, it's not impossible, but at the same time, man, it raised suspicion. I was always suspicious about something. I still am, and I still don't got the full story, but this goes in a different direction. I mean, even from the young lady, she had Latavia McGee. She had charges against her, you know what I mean, for I believe for child endangerment based on her daughter, who was around 8 at the time. They found her with amphetamines in her system, you know what I mean? So the rest of these guys got drug charges. They've been selling crack, they've been selling, so now it just makes the picture fuzzy. Even if they was really going down there on an honest trip to see a doctor, by them having this kind of record, it makes shit look suspicious,
Yeah, definitely. Now, I couldn't find a whole lot of information on their backgrounds, but according to this article, which is published by the Daily Mail out in the UK, all 4 of them, Latavia McGee, Eric Williams, and Del Brown, and Shaheed Woodard, all had criminal records, which is, you can't ignore that. If you're one that believes that they were going down there for something shady, well, the first thing you want to know is, do they have any shady record? And all 4 of them do, according to this article. Now, I don't know about the validity of the Daily Mail, and I don't know if they did all their research and, verified this information, because I know sometimes the Daily Mail could just be posting some crazy stuff. So I want to put, I haven't found anything like on NBC News or any of the U.S. news sources. But if this article is true, then I'm definitely open to considering that they were down there for something other than cosmetic surgery for one person. Because why would 3 other guys have to go with you? That's another question I have.
And 3 other guys with felonies, you know what I mean, convictions, So it's cloudy, man. That one right there, man, is hard for me to pinpoint, but it do seem like something fuzzy was going on, and at the end of the day, whether it was or whether it wasn't, 2 people lost their life, 2 others were shot. They clearly made a wrong decision somewhere while they were down there. It just this one a crazy one.
Now, I think that maybe the United States authorities might not want to make a big deal about their criminal records because they'll lose sympathy for the two victims that lost their lives down there. If they was down there doing, if they was doing some gangster shit and this is what happened, then you really can't have that much sympathy for them. Of course, the families will, but I don't know why we haven't heard more about the backgrounds of these four people if this story is true. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but at the same time, man, like I said, we don't even see no publication on it. We don't see no more further details. It came out, I believe the news outlets and people got the real story, behind the scenes and probably was told to let it go, leave it alone, start reporting on it, because they probably trying to sweep it under the rug to the fact that, because they could have been down there doing something extra, we not going to put our resources, the American name and the American resources behind, trying to figure out everything that was happening, America could easily, if they, like you say, once they look, if they really read their record and it came to that, they just gonna be like, man, they just gonna be some dead niggas down there because we not finna put the brand behind it. We not finna put the, you know what I mean? We not finna put this across the country like we fighting for them. When people get their records, be like, man, y'all fighting for. Look who y'all fighting for, you know what I mean? So, nonetheless, they're Americans and they should still be fought for. But at the same time, you know how it go.
Yeah, man. Shaheed Woodard is one of the guys that lost his life, and the other one was Zendell Brown. Latavia McGee and Eric Williams were lucky enough to make it back to the United States with just some injuries that they'll recover from. But I don't know what the latest update on this situation is. I know they arrested a couple of Mexican nationals. And I think you said that pretty much nothing's probably going to happen regarding this situation. And I'm starting to think that if these people have criminal records, you're probably right. Nothing's going to happen to any of those Mexicans that they arrested down there a couple weeks ago.
No doubt, and it's unfortunate, but at the same time, that's how they treat, ex-felons, they say they forgive, you know what I mean? But they definitely don't forget, and they definitely will remind people if something ever happened that, you know what I mean? Oh, that he was you can go on and find a cure for cancer, but somebody's going to come say, well, he was a drug dealer back in, 1980, or something like that. So, the things you're doing in the past will come back to, haunt you in certain situations,
Yeah, I'd like to get more details on all four of their criminal records with the dates to see how far back. I know Williams was in jail. The guy that survived, he did 18 months in March of 2017. That wasn't too far ago, right? That's relatively recent.
I mean, that's recent, you know what I mean? And, but I mean, let's be honest, we could look at these dudes, and tell that they have some, I mean, you could, I hate to judge a book by its cover, but I mean,
you're gonna judge them just by their looks, huh?
Yeah. I'm gonna look and be like, man, this looks suspicious, and it's messed up, but they fit the description, and, so, hey, man, a lot of people are going to look at it like how I see it. Like, man, these guys just look like they was up to something, and they could have not been. That's the cool thing about it. The labels we get, what I'm looking for, how people just judge us, based on looks, but at the same time, man, It's unfortunately that whatever they were doing, they plan wasn't airtight, and a couple of them lost their lives, man.
Yeah, Williams was distributing crack cocaine down there in a town called Lake City in South Carolina. He was charged with 2 counts. He did some prison time. So yeah, I mean, these are serious circumstances that should be part of the story if they're true. I know some people might just say it's irrelevant, but if there's some sort of speculation that they were down there involved in some drug purchase, then nah, this is completely relevant. So I'm surprised.
No doubt. That changed the whole dynamics of the situation.
For
So
sure.
that's what I'm saying. If somebody, as far as, the FBI or, the local authorities, actually found out, because 2 people were still alive. So I'm sure that they, and the FBI pulled up on them people and was like, man, what the hell y'all was doing down there, because they wasn't successful, because they were hurt, injured, and because they lost, 2 friends, they might have just gave up the goods. Man, look, man, we just really went down there to just, XYZ. Once that was said, okay, now y'all went down there on some faulty shit. Let's back up. We're going to stop the news outlets from, reporting on this. We're going to, we're not going to do a smear campaign, but we just going to back up off of it, and that could be what's going on, So they definitely know, because the 2 of them was alive, they definitely know what happened and what was really going on,
Now, those child endangerment or child neglect charges that you just mentioned, FG, from Latavia, Washington, happened in 2016. So that's not that long ago. That's just, about 8 years ago, 7 years ago.
Right.
So, yeah, these people definitely have some fresh criminal charges. So we'll keep y'all up to date with that. And at some point, I'm going to try to verify that everything on the Daily Mail is true. Sometimes the Daily Mail can be sketchy. So let me just throw that out there.
No doubt. Right. Let's throw that out there. There could be, false, wording and things of that nature, but at the same time, I do believe that, it's more going on than what we know. There's more going on than what they telling us, as always, and it's always 3 sides to every story, man. So we definitely gonna see how much they don't, speak on this, and that's gonna speak volumes just by them not saying nothing or not advertising it or not, being vocal about, the situation.
If you were to just take a guess on that Daily Mail story, what's the % chance that whole story is 100% truthful?
Oh, I believe it's 100% truthful,
Already.
No doubt, already. Yeah. I believe that before they even put it out there. Like I say, I have no facts. I've read nothing other than what the this report that just came up. It could actually not be true, but I believe it is. If you just want to ask me, I believe that it definitely have some legitimacy to it.
Yeah. I think most of it could be true. I still want to give them a benefit of the doubt. I want to see this reported on more legitimate news sites other than the Daily Mail. But yeah, it seems like it's most likely true because there's too many details in that article for it to be fabricated. And I'll put a link to that Daily Mail article in the show notes of this episode. And lastly, we got to talk about our favorite rapper from New York City named Tekashi 6ix9ine, man. I kind of knew that something like this was going to happen at some point because this guy walks around pretty reckless and eventually somebody's going to put hands on him. But if you've been living under a rock for the last several days, somebody beat up Tekashi 6ix9ine in the bathroom of a gym down in South Florida. And before we talk about it, I'm going to play this short clip of I think 6ix9ine told his lawyer that he got jumped by a group of people, but it's really just 2 guys. It's really 1 guy, but you could say 2 guys. All right, let me play this clip.
Yo, what the fuck? That's how they gonna treat your bitch ass. Oh, Mickey Mouse ass, brown ass. Do something. Go ahead. Take a picture. Go ahead. Take a picture. I want to be famous now. I want to be famous. Fuck.
Yo, they just jumped 6ix9ine, bro. Yo, homie, I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm a fan, bro. No, I'm a fan. I'm just saying, bro. I'm a fan, bro. I know we jumpy, nigga. I know I ain't jumpy, bro. I'm just saying. That's crazy. That's crazy.
And there you have it. 6ix9ine assaulted in the bathroom of this gym, FG. And what's your first reaction to that?
Well, to get jumped with some biker shorts on, man, in the bathroom, man, that's pretty, listen, I'm going to tell you what pissed me off about this whole, mainly the comment. You know, you got so many people in the comments and shit, and they talk about, you know, that's messed up how they did him, you know, and you know, why did they do him like that? And this dude got on the witness stand and sent dudes to prison, man. You know what I mean? You know, and the wording has always been snitches get stitches. You know what I mean? Now, because in today's society, because there's so many of them, you know, it's not like it used to be. You know, with the technology, you know, that people have, you know, to make going to jail so much easier, people was let up off the rats, but they still rats, and they still can get it at any given time. And I don't have no sympathy for not one. You know, this dude and took people from their families, you know, took people from their kids, you know, on something that he signed up for. You know what I mean? Did nobody make him go do the gangster shit that he was doing with these dudes? He signed up and wanted to be a part of that. Then when the shit hit the fan, he went and got on the stand on them and laid them people down, you know. And you know, I seen people in the comments where, you know, George Zimmerman down there in Florida, y'all ain't did nothing to him. You know what I mean? Hey, this, you know, you gonna be somewhere one day when you gonna run into the wrong person or the wrong people, and they gonna handle their business. This was some lightweight shit. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure that the people doing time right now would have wanted his teeth kicked out his mouth. You know what I mean? Out the back of his head. You know, so just to be honest with you, you know, and if you go back to all these people that's talking shit, they the same people that turn and watch, you know, a James Cagney movie or Al Capone movie, and they saw how the Reds got, you know, threw in the ocean with rocks tied to him, you know, and they laughed at that. You know what I mean? It was a movie, but that was true shit back then. So now this world society then got so soft on these rats. Why are you doing him like that? What you mean? Why is he doing him like that? You know what I mean? He didn't even get what he deserved. You know what I mean? And you know, and that's the thing that pisses me off. You know, and I know people gonna talk shit, but I don't give a damn. You know what I mean? But I commend those dudes who, you know, took the initiative to, you know what I mean, put a move down on somebody who definitely deserved it. You know what I mean? And that's that. You know, of course, yeah, they incriminated themselves with the video and things of that nature. But at the same time, man, you know, it's obviously that they didn't give a shit. You know, and like dudes say, I want to be famous now. You know what I mean? And you know, so. I don't have no sympathy for him, bro.
Oh, I already knew that was coming from FG. So to a certain degree, you're kind of glad they videotaped it so that the world can see how these people felt about him at that particular time. Seeing him in public, the world now sees how some people might view 6ix9ine. Without the video, we wouldn't be talking about it.
No, we wouldn't be talking about it. Not to mention, though, look, this dude done got so comfortable, Alex, you know, and it could be a lesson for even, you know, the Reds need to tighten up their game, you know, because they just run around like nothing gonna happen to him, you know, and you never know. This dude is in a gym, you know, in a sauna, you know, chilling, like he's some superstar or something, you know what I mean? Or let me take that back, not like he's some superstar, like nobody knows who he is or nobody won't do nothing to him, you know what I mean? And you know, and that's the whole thing about it. You know, he got caught slipping, you know. A dude that did much telling as he did need to be walking around damn near with armed security, you know, because this gonna happen everywhere you go. I mean, you know what I mean? It's everybody not gonna do it, but you're gonna run into some motherfuckers that's gonna holler at you if you're not protecting yourself, you know. So, you know.
Yeah, the feds gave out 15 and 20-year sentences based on his testimony against the guys from the 9 Trey Bloods out there in New York City. And I'm certain that those guys are celebrating in their cells right now. The first thing I wanted to address is the authenticity of the video. Some people thought it might be fake. His is just a promo, but dude is all bloodied up. He's leaking from all over the place in his face. This does not seem fake at all.
No doubt. He looked like, I mean, you know, like I said, though, he got what he had coming a little bit, you know what I mean? A little touch up just to remind you, you know, boy, get somewhere and get behind a rock somewhere. Don't just be trying to walk around and disrespect our town like that, you know, or society like that when you a whole rat. You a nationally known rat. You're not just a dude who told on somebody in a small town and we know about you. You nationally known, homie. You know what I mean? You got up on the stand on a national platform, you know, and the people who are not into that life, you know, understand that if they like his music, they still buy his music, a thing of that nature. But at the same time, you know, the people who is of this life, you know what I mean? Just because this dude got some money, you know what I mean? You know, I can't compromise my integrity no matter what. He couldn't come get me for no amount of money to protect him, you know, or to ride with him, or, you know, FG, I'm coming to LA, man. I got 50 racks, homie. You know what I mean? I need you to take me to the Fox Hill. Man, I'm not fucking with you, period, man. You know, and that's where a lot of people who are from the streets, you know, they integrity waver because now, man, everything is about the buck, you know. So this is only the first time he gonna get it. You know, next time is gonna be worse.
And if we remember, there was another informant, I believe this would have been last year, that was running around the streets of Harlem like he never ratted on anybody, was living his life, driving cars, riding motorcycles. Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know, I'm talking about Alpo Martinez.
Alpo. Yeah.
And on one late night on the streets of Harlem, somebody gunned his ass down and brought his life to a tragic end. And I think 6ix9ine is kind of on that same path, you know, living kind of recklessly. I don't know if you saw the clip, but he was at a Florida Marlins baseball game just a few days before he got jumped, and he was intoxicated, drunk. He was in the stands. They had to kick him out the game. The security came down there.
I heard something, but I was waiting for some details, and I hadn't got them. I'm getting them now from you, but
yeah, there's a little bit of footage.
That's what happened at the game. Yeah, okay.
There's some footage of him, and I think some people were just pissed because he was waving a Mexican flag, like he was on the second or third row at the baseball game, waving a Mexican flag, and he was blocking the view of people behind him. And I don't know if this had anything to do with that, but this is also a lesson for those who are his friend. If you're a friend of Tekashi 6ix9ine and you're hanging out with him and you're socializing with him, sometimes the friends can get it too if it's going down at that time and you just happen to be there.
No doubt. Now, say if he did have two friends with him, you know, and there was 6 dudes that ran up on him in the gym. You know, now you finna find out who your friends is, bro. Now you finna find out who with you, who got your back, who down for you. You know what I mean? Because in this situation, listen, you know, you got to take the beating for the friend, man. You know, but these dudes are not standing on those principles no more. You know, it could have been some dudes in there saying, "Stop, man, don't do that to him," and watched him get his ass whooped. You know what I mean? You know, by rule, if you fucking with a motherfucker that's on some gangster shit or he got some smoke, you gonna take that ass whooping with him. Or you gonna fight for sure. And then if y'all lose, but y'all gonna lose together. These dudes just ain't the same no more, man. You know what I mean? And but this dude is just like Alpo. You running around, you showboating, you know, because if Alpo would have came home, man, and laid low and just went to go do his shit, family shit and shit like that, he might still be here. You know what I mean? But when you come out, you know, you're a well-known rat, you know, like 6ix9ine is, you know, and you want to come out here and floss and showboat, you know what I mean? I don't see how he looking himself in the mirror, but at the same time, you know, I guess he have no problem with what he did, or in his mind he justified what he did. But bro, you know, I believe that he's going to get comfortable again because I could see the arrogance in him, and you know, never know, it could be worse next time.
No, I believe that 6ix9ine learned a little lesson here, because everybody in his circles is going to tell him the same thing, to say, hey man, 1, you don't have any security. 2, you can't just be walking around in public like that with the rainbow hair, the long braids, and not get recognized. And 3, you can't be at baseball games and public events getting intoxicated with this rat jacket on you. Somebody's got to be telling him that. If nobody's telling him this, then he has no friends.
None whatsoever, but I believe a lot of us don't have as many as we think we do. You know what I mean? You know, even me, you know what I mean? I'm checks out to be A1, you know, on my side of town, but I still have homies that call me and say, hey, bro, you know, that picnic, man, you know, I'm gonna go down there with you, you know, I want you to go by yourself, or, you know, just put you up on game, you know what I mean? And that's what real friends do. They gonna call you and say, bro, no, don't go to the gym by yourself, homie. You got enough money to build a gym at your pad. Why is you at the gym in public, you know what I mean? Like you say, and with the hair and with the certain stuff, you know what I mean? So that's why I say that's where that arrogance come in at, you know? And he's gonna have to, you know, take it down a notch, you know, but his arrogance is what fuels his fans, you know. But the boy gonna have to sit down somewhere, man.
Yeah, you know, when he first was released from prison after snitching on the rest of his crew, he did walk around with security. You would see him with like 3 or 4 big bodyguards. But I'm thinking that that's very costly to have 3 or 4 guys around you every time you step out the door. Could be costly. And I don't really get a sense that this guy is really worth as much money as some of us might think he is. Because why would you be at this gym with nobody to protect you? That's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I got a gym in my house, so you know,
Yeah.
I know it, bro. You should have one at yours. Now, this is the thing about it, though. You know, he got fired on at the club some months back as well. You know, he did have security with him and things of that nature, but he still got fired on. I think he fired back too, though. He took off back. You know what I mean? But at the same time, man, you know, this time you got overwhelmed. You know, you letting your heart, you know, get beside itself, you know what I mean? And you be thinking some places you might be that ain't nobody gonna do nothing, you know, but they touched him up pretty good. Look at his forehead, look at the cut. They touched him up, man. That ain't fake.
Yeah, I'm just posting a picture up of his injuries after he was able to clean up the blood after he was jumped. And he does have quite a few cuts around his face and his cheek and his chin and his lip and his eye. And you know, he took some kicks to the body. I'm sure he's got some injuries around his abdomen and his chest and his ribs. But hey, are we surprised? Are we really surprised that this happened? I'm not at all. I'm surprised I'm surprised it took this long and it wasn't more severe.
No doubt, but it was in the gym. You know what I mean? The dudes did know that they was, you know, when you go in the gym, you got to have a membership. You know, it's going to be easy to locate these guys. You know what I mean? They don't give a fuck at this time. You know, at the same time, Tekashi still would have to go basically file a report, and you know, when they get to court, get up on the stand and say what they did. So if these guys are caught, they may not be. Tekashi may go in there and be like, "Nah, fuck that, I'm gonna take that because I was slipping." You know, he might, you know, he didn't already told the big one he can't never take the rat back, but at the same time, he may have something in him to say, you know, fuck that, I'm not finna testify. Fuck it, I was slipping. You know, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna charge that to the game. You know, no, I ain't pressing no charges, and them dudes really might walk away from it, but it might tighten his game up. You know what I mean? So, I'm seeing I'm wondering how this gonna go, if any arrests gonna be made, and if he gonna make any more statements. You know, to you know, get these dudes locked up or keep them locked up.
Do you think because he was a federal informant that the investigation of whoever assaulted him in that bathroom was taken more seriously, or do they just treat this like a regular assault?
Well, it all depends. The feds may not even get involved in something like this. You know, the feds might have already warned him, like, bro, you can't be running around. They might have offered to put him in even some kind of situation where, you know, you're not around people. And just like, I forgot which one of the mob gangsters they want to do. They were like, no, fuck that. Yo, Sammy, they had Sammy and Sammy like, no, I'm tired. Look, I take my chances. You know what I mean? So, you know, you always got that factor with dudes like, no, I'm gonna take my chances out on the street, man. I'm good. You know, so they may not even get involved in this kind of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they did offer Tekashi 6ix9ine some sort of relocation witness protection assistance, which he turned down. So I guess the feds were like, hey, you on your own then. And, you know, we got what we wanted out of you. And since you don't want any protection, then you're on your own.
No doubt, you know, so that definitely could be the situation, you know, but we definitely see. I don't know. All
right, bro, man. I think that's all I have on the 6ix9ine, man. Where can the people tap in with you, FG?
Oh man, they definitely tapping in with me over there at on YouTube at F General 1 on Insta. I'm sorry, they tapping in with me a lot over there on Instagram at F General 1. You know, and they hitting me up, you know, almost threatening me about putting some more content out on YouTube. So,
yeah.
You know, I think I'm gonna come out with it and definitely you know, get something else going, you know.
Yeah, a couple of my folks said, when is FG gonna post some more, man? Because they really like tapping in with your content.
No, that's what's up. That's what's up, and I appreciate it, man. You know, and but you know, so hey, I'm gonna get it done, no doubt.
All right, man. Make sure you you hit FG up at FGeneral1. The YouTube channel is FG Unleashed. My YouTube channel is Street TV. You can find me at Alex Alonso 101 on all social media platforms. And thanks again for tapping in with another fire episode of Streets and Scholars.